Hey, what's up, everybody? So I'm just doing my first live here. I'm testing this out. Hopefully everything is sounding okay and you can hear me. This is my first time doing this, going live on this channel. Actually, I've never gone live on YouTube before, so I'm just learning about it. So thanks for showing up. I'm going to read from the Bhagavad Gita today. This is the 1972 original version of the Bhagavad Gita that was translated by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, this guy right here, who is a highly advanced spiritual teacher who came to the United States from India in the 1960s to spread Krishna consciousness, or what's called Bhakti Yoga, which is the yoga of devotion and connection to the Supreme Krishna, who it is a name of God. So in the Bhagavad Gita, we are looking at and exploring the version of the Bhagavad Gita that was given by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So we're just going to read a little bit and see how it goes. You see there's a nice light sun shining right on my face. Hopefully you like the setup. Let's see how it goes. We'll read just from the introduction, because there's some very extremely valuable stuff here in this introduction. Starts with a prayer, and we'll read the prayer real quick and see how it goes. So 1 second here. Give me a second. It goes like this. Om Jnana Timirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna turn on this light. You tell me what you think. Is the red good or not? I don't know. Let's see. Just playing around here, so I hope you guys can all just see how this live plays out. And I'm going to start reading shortly. I'm deleting this. Delete. Okay. All right. Should be, yeah, okay. Reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Here we go. I'm live. Boom, bam. All right. Introduction. The Bhagavad Gita is also known as the Gita-upanishad. It is the essence of Vedic knowledge and is one of the most important Upanishads in Vedic literature. Of course, there are many commentaries in English on the Bhagavad Gita, and one may question the necessity for another one. This present edition can be explained in the following way. Recently, an American lady asked me to recommend an English translation of the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, in America, there are so many editions of the Bhagavad Gita available in English, but as far as I have seen, not only in America, but also in India, none of them can be strictly said to be authoritative, because in almost every one of them can be strictly said, because in almost every one of them, the commentator has expressed his own opinions without touching the spirit of Bhagavad Gita as it is. The spirit of Bhagavad Gita is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita itself. It is just like this. If we want to take a particular medicine, then we have to follow the directions written on the label. We cannot take the medicine according to our own whim or the direction of a friend. It must be taken according to the directions on the label or the directions given by a physician. Similarly, the Bhagavad Gita should be taken or accepted as it is, directed by the speaker himself. The speaker of Bhagavad Gita is Lord Sri Krishna. He is mentioned on every page of Bhagavad Gita as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavan. Of course, the word Bhagavan sometimes refers to any powerful person or any powerful demigod, and certainly here Bhagavan designates Lord Sri Krishna as a great personality. But at the same time, we should know that Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. as is confirmed by all the great acharyas, like Sankaracharya, Sankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarka Swami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and many other authorities of Vedic knowledge in India. The Lord himself is also establishes himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Bhagavad Gita, and he is accepted as such in the Brahma Samhita and all the Puranas, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Bhagavat Purana. Therefore, we should take the Bhagavad Gita as it is directed by the personality of Godhead himself. Oh, there's a bunch of Sanskrit. I'm just going to go over this Sanskrit. Here, the Lord informs Arjuna that this system of yoga, the Bhagavad Gita, was first spoken to the sun god, and the sun god explained it to Manu, and Manu explained it to Ishvaku. And in that way, by disciplic succession, one speaker after another, this yoga system has been coming down, but in the course of time, it has again become lost. Consequently, the Lord has to speak it again, this time to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He tells Arjuna that he is relating this supreme secret to him because he is his devotee and his friend. The purport of this is that Bhagavad Gita is a treatise which is especially meant for the devotee of the Lord. There are three classes of transcendentalists, namely the Jnani, the Yogi, and the Bhakta, or the impersonalist, the meditator, and the devotee. Here, the Lord clearly tells Arjuna that he is making him the first receiver of a new parampara, disciplic succession, because the old succession was broken. It was the Lord's wish, therefore, to establish another parampara in the same line of thought that was coming down from the sun god to others, and it was his wish that his teaching be distributed anew by Arjuna. He wanted Arjuna to become the authority in understanding the Bhagavad Gita. So we see that the Bhagavad Gita is instructed to Arjuna, especially because Arjuna was a devotee of the Lord, a direct student of Krishna, and his intimate friend. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is best understood by a person who has similar qualities to Arjuna's. That is to say that he must be a devotee in a direct relationship with the Lord. As soon as one becomes a devotee of the Lord, he also has a direct relationship with the Lord. That is a very elaborate subject matter. But briefly, it can be stated that a devotee is in a relationship with the Supreme Personality in one of 5 ways. 1 may be a devotee in a passive state, an active state, a friend, a parent, or a conjugal lover. Arjuna was in a relationship with the Lord as a friend. Of course, there is a gulf of difference between this friendship and the friendship found in the material world. This is transcendental friendship, which cannot be had by everyone. Of course, everyone has a particular relationship with the Lord, and that relationship is evoked by the perfection of devotional service. But in the present status of our life, we have not only forgotten the Supreme Lord, but we have forgotten our eternal relationship with the Lord. Wow. How about that? Pause. I'm not reading anymore. I'm just going to make a comment on this. Here's a piece he just said. In the present status of our life, we have not only forgotten the Supreme Lord, but we have forgotten our eternal relationship with the Lord. So 1, we've forgotten our relationship with the Lord. We, you and I, all living entities, we have a relationship with the Lord. And we have forgotten it. All right, back to reading. Every living being out of many, many billions and trillions of living beings has a particular relationship with the Lord eternally. That means you and I, every living entity, the billions and trillions of living entities on this planet and the innumerable planets all across this universe and the innumerable universes. I'm not reading, I'm saying, has a particular relationship with the Lord eternally. That is called Swarup. By the process of devotional service, one can revive that Swarup, and that stage is called Swarup Siddhi, perfection of one's constitutional position. So Arjuna was a devotee, and he was in touch with the Supreme Lord in friendship. How Arjuna accepted this Bhagavad Gita should be noted. His manner of acceptance is given in the 10th chapter. Here's what he said. Arjuna said, "You are the supreme Brahman, the ultimate, the supreme abode and purifier, the absolute truth, and the eternal divine person. You are the primal God, transcendental and original, and you are the unborn and all-pervading beauty. All the great sages like Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyas proclaim this of you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the gods nor demons, O Lord, know thy personality." After hearing Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna accepted Krishna as Param Brahma, the Supreme Brahman. Every living being is Brahman, but the Supreme Living Being, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the Supreme Brahman. Padam Dhamma means that he is the supreme rest or abode of everything. Pavitra means that he is pure, untainted by material contamination. Purusham means that he is the supreme enjoyer. Divyam, transcendental. Adi Devam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ajam, the unborn. And Vibhum, the greatest, the all-pervading. Now, one may think that because Krishna was the friend of Arjuna, Arjuna was telling him all this by way of flattery. But Arjuna, just to drive out this kind of doubt from the minds of the readers of Bhagavad Gita, substantiates these praises in the next verse when he says that Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not only by himself, but by authorities like the sage Narada, Asita, Devala, Vyasadeva, and so on. These are great personalities who distribute the Vedic knowledge as it is accepted by all the acharyas. Therefore, Arjuna tells Krishna that he accepts whatever he says to be completely perfect. Sarvam etad tramanye. I accept everything you say to be true. Arjuna also says that the personality of the Lord is very difficult to understand and that he cannot be known even by the great demigods. This means that the Lord cannot even be known by personalities greater than human beings. So how can a human being understand Sri Krishna without becoming his devotee? Therefore, Bhagavad Gita should be taken up in the spirit of devotion. One should not think that he is equal to Krishna, nor should he think that Krishna is an ordinary personality or even a great personality. Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Can you believe that? Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At least theoretically, according to the statements of Bhagavad Gita or the statements of Arjuna, the person who is trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita. We should therefore at least theoretically accept Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And with that submissive spirit, we can understand the Bhagavad Gita. Unless one reads the Bhagavad Gita in a submissive spirit, it is very difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita because it is a great mystery. Just what is the Bhagavad Gita? The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to deliver mankind from the nescience of material existence. Nescience is like ignorance or lack of understanding. Every man is in difficulty in so many ways. As Arjuna also was in difficulty in having to fight the battle of Kurukshetra, Arjuna surrendered unto Sri Krishna, and consequently, this Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Not only Arjuna, but every one of us is in full of anxieties because of this material existence. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence. Actually, we are not meant to be threatened by non-existence. Our existence is eternal. Hold on, I'm getting a little, I got to fix make sure my focus is right. I'm not, totally up on all this camera stuff. I'm doing my best. I hope you like it. Trying to do my best to share this spiritual knowledge. Hopefully someone's watching. I can't tell. No one's watching right now, but let's see. Maybe people will start watching eventually. Where are we? Okay, here we go. We're about to get in some really good stuff. I mean, not that this is all good, but this is really powerful, potent. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence. Actually, we are not meant to be threatened by non-existence. Our existence is eternal, but somehow or other, we are put into asat. Asat refers to that which does not exist. Out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are a few who are actually inquiring about their position as to what they are, why they are put into this awkward position, and so on. Unless one is awakened to this position of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want suffering, but rather wants to make a solution to all sufferings, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Humanity begins when this sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahma Jigyasa. Every activity of the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the absolute. Therefore, those who begin to question why they are suffering or where they came from and where they shall go after death are proper students for understanding Bhagavad Gita. Well, I'm going to say that again. Therefore, those who begin to question why they are suffering or where they came from and where they shall go after death are proper students for understanding the Bhagavad Gita. The sincere student should also have a firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a student was Arjuna. This is a lot of fun. I could keep going, but I'm going to stop and see how this goes. Hopefully everything was all right. We'll see. And let's see. We're going to keep going here. We're going to keep doing some readings. I mean, all right, I'll just read a little bit longer. It looks like there's a couple people on. I'll just keep reading for a little bit longer. This is the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, by the way, if you just showed up. Lord Krishna descends specifically to reestablish the real purpose of life. When man forgets that purpose, even then, out of many, many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of understanding his position. And for him, this Bhagavad Gita is spoken. Actually, we are all followed by the tiger of nescience, but the Lord is very merciful upon the living entities, especially human beings like you. To this end, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita, making his friend Arjuna his student. Being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjuna was above all ignorance, but Arjuna was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to question Lord Krishna about the problems of life, so that the Lord could explain them for the benefit of future generations of human beings and chalk out the plan of life. Then man could act accordingly and perfect the mission of human life. Then man could act accordingly and perfect the mission of human life. What is the mission of human life? Any ideas? Well, it's being explained right here. The subject of the Bhagavad Gita entails the comprehension of 5 basic truths. First of all, number 1, the science of God is explained, and then the constitutional position of the living entities, jivas. There is Ishvara, which means controller, and there are jivas, the living entities which are controlled. If a living entity says that he is not controlled, but that he is free, then he is insane. The living being is controlled in every respect, at least in his conditioned life. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter deals with the Ishvara, the supreme controller, and the jivas, the controlled living entities, prakriti, material nature, and time, the duration of existence of the whole universe, or the manifestation of material nature, and karma, activity, are also discussed. All of these things are discussed in the Bhagavad Gita. The cosmic manifestation is full of different activities. All living entities are engaged in different activities. From Bhagavad Gita, we must learn what God is and the living entities and what the living entities are, what Prakriti is, what the cosmic manifestation is, and how it is controlled by time, and what the activities of the living entities are. Out of these 5 basic subject matters in Bhagavad Gita, it is established that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or Krishna, or Brahman, or Supreme Controller, or Paramatma, you may use whatever name you like, is the greatest of all. The living beings are in quality like the Supreme Controller. For instance, the Lord has control over the universal affairs, over material nature, etc., as will be explained in the later chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Material nature is not independent. She is acting under the directions of the Supreme Lord, as Lord Krishna says, Prakriti is working under my direction. When we when we see wonderful things happening in the cosmic nature, we should know that behind this cosmic manifestation, there is a controller. Interesting to note, I'm not reading now. We'll put the book. There is a controller. So when we see wonderful things happening, there is a controller of all of these, the sun rising and setting, and the oceans coming and going, and the planets spinning, or maybe the earth plane being flat, whichever one you want to believe. There's a controller behind all of it. And who is that? Krishna. All right, I'll read again. For instance, a child may think that an automobile is quite wonderful to be able to run without a horse or other animal pulling it. But a sane man knows that the nature of the automobile's engineering arrangement. He also knows that behind the machinery there is a man, a driver. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is a driver under whose direction everything is working. Now the jivas, or the living entities, have been accepted by the Lord, as we will note in the later chapters, as his part and parcels. A particle of gold is also gold. A drop of water from the ocean is also salty. And similarly, we, the living entities, being part and parcel of the Supreme Controller, Ishvara, or Bhagavan, Lord Sri Krishna, have all the qualities of the Supreme Lord in a minute quantity. Because we are minute Ishvaras, subordinate Ishvaras, we are trying to control nature, as presently we are trying to control space or planets. And this tendency to control is there because it is in Krishna. But although we have a tendency to lord it over material nature, we should know that we are not the Supreme Controller. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Just going to do something real quick. There we go. If you're here and you're listening, you can make a comment, say hello, or like this live. It'll probably help. I'll keep reading. What is material nature? This is also explained in Gita as inferior prakriti, inferior nature. So there's spiritual nature and material nature, and now we're discussing. We're Srila Prabhupada. This is Srila Prabhupada. This is his introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, and he's explaining the material nature. This is also explained in Gita as inferior prakriti, inferior nature. The living entity is explained as the superior prakriti. Prakriti is always under control, whether inferior or superior. Prakriti is female, and she is controlled by the Lord, just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband. Prakriti is always subordinate, predominated by the Lord, who is the predominator. The living entities and material nature are both predominated, controlled by the Supreme Lord. According to the Gita, the living entities, although parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are to be considered Prakriti. This is clearly mentioned in the 7th chapter, 5th verse of Bhagavad Gita. This Prakriti is my lower nature, and beyond this, there is another nature, another Prakriti, Jiva Bhutam, the living entity. So one thing to consider when reading, I'm just explaining something here, to consider when exploring the Bhagavad Gita, especially for the first time, is that there's a lot of concepts and context that are difficult to grasp when you don't understand the culture and the language that it was originally spoken in. Hardly anyone in today's world understands the language of Sanskrit that this was originally spoken in 5,000 years ago. As we enter into this great mystery of adventure of the Bhagavad Gita, and we start to hear things and become exposed to ideas and words and concepts that we've never heard before, there's a tendency to become maybe discouraged about our ability to understand the things that we're hearing. And what I would recommend is that if there's things that you don't understand, you just let them be, and you continue to hear and listen and find something. And as you're listening, something that inspires you or something that connects to your heart and your soul, and try to focus on that and meditate on that. I haven't put a link in it, but I can put a link for the free Bhagavad Gita. So you can read this. You don't even have to buy it. You can just read it for free online. So as you read this and you enter into this adventure of the Bhagavad Gita, this new world that you're exploring, you will find that there's a lot of new things. Don't be discouraged. Keep going. You can get benefit without knowing it. Just hearing the words is a benefit. So keep going. Don't stop. You're doing great. Where was I? All right. So Prakriti. Prakriti itself is constituted by three qualities. The mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. Above these modes, there is eternal time. And by a combination of these modes of nature and under the control and purview of eternal time, there are activities which are called karma. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the fruits of our activities. For instance, suppose I am a businessman and have worked very hard with intelligence and have amassed a great bank balance. Then I am an enjoyer. But then I am an enjoyer. But then say I have lost all my money in business. Then I am a sufferer. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the results of our work, or we suffer the results. This is called karma. How much more do we have here in the introduction? This thing is no joke. It's pages and pages. It goes on until page 27. I'm on page 9. All right, we're gonna stop here. I think this has gone pretty good. Hopefully this sounds good. It's my first time streaming. I'm gonna try to keep doing this to please Srila Prabhupada and my spiritual master, His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami, who has given me access to this spiritual knowledge so that I can, try to utilize this human form of life to have some success in understanding my eternal nature, and that I don't fall deeper into this mode of ignorance and passion. Hare Krishna. Thank you for being here, and thanks for listening. We're on page 9 in the introduction. We'll keep reading. We'll keep moving on, and we'll see how it goes from there. So I'm going to end this live now, and it was nice hanging out with you, and I hope to see you again soon. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chant that, and your life will be sublime and